Welcome to Business Talk Sister Talk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today's episode is titled How to Become an Interior Designer. This week we have someone with us, Crystal Collinson, and she is going to tell us all about herself. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, girls, for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I'm gonna have to be honest. This is my first time having two people interviewing me, so I'm gonna be. It's gonna be a little bit different. So hopefully, you guys obviously know what you're doing and have it rehearsed, so you don't speak over each other. But I'm gonna try to just follow your lead. But thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
we'll try not to go rapid fire and overwhelm you.
Okay, good.
All right.
So the first question we have for you is, what do you do?
What do I do? So I've sort of found myself, now I'm a Canadian, so I found myself in a niche, as we like to say it, and I know you guys say in the US a niche. Cannot call myself legally an interior designer in Canada or Ontario because we have a governing body that I would have to write an exam for that I haven't written. So I will get my hand slapped if I call myself an interior designer. So I basically refer to myself as an interior design consultant. So I work predominantly with builders and developers of new homes and subdivisions. So I will do their model homes. So that would be like the show homes. Some people refer to them as show homes or model homes. So I will design and decorate and furnish them right from plans. So we're basically planning everything from just the plans as the house is being built. I already have the furniture picked out and artwork, and then we write down to all the little knickknacks and accessories. So that's sort of one side of the builder developer, I guess, sort of window or genre that I work with. And then I'll also do sales presentation centers. And so those would be like the retail stores that people would go in and to buy their to be built home. So they'll look at the site plans and they'll see where the different lots available and what type of houses can be built there. So, and that's becoming a lot more technical with all the different types of electronic, like they have a lot of TVs and screens that you can pull up this lot here I can put this house on, and with virtual reality things are getting a lot more sophisticated. So we incorporate a lot of that into the design. So we would be doing everything from picking finishes, all the electrical, all the millwork, which would be any custom whether there's cabinetry or what we call like a site plan table, so we design all of that. And then as well as doing like showroom design for tile showrooms or builders that will have their decor studio where purchasers will go in and purchase or would pick all their finishes for the house. So we're designing all that. So we would do, again, all the all the drawings. So it's basically like the drafting and the plans to design those spaces as well.
Wow. Okay, so this is very versatile, and you've got all kinds of things across the board that you're working on. But what is your why behind what you do? Why did you start with your design consulting?
I think it was funny. It's when I was younger, I used to. So this can be sort of a funny story. I used to rearrange my furniture in my bedroom all the time. And I used to look at the Sears catalog and I'd look into the bedroom section and I'd be looking at the duvet covers and not even sort of realizing that what I was doing and why I was doing it. That was what I liked to do. I'd be like, well, I could move my bed over there. And so my parents would be downstairs and hearing me going, as I'm moving my furniture by myself, pushing it along the floor. And so I kind of always had that, but I didn't ever really think of it as being a real career. So all through high school, I did, I played sports and I did very well at sports, and I was academically, good, and I had a good average. So I got into university and I went in for kinesiology, which is, sort of studying of the body. And I thought maybe eventually I'd be like a gym teacher or physiotherapist or something. And I got into that. And like within a semester, I was like, this isn't for me. I liked physical fitness and sports and all that for my own self, but I didn't really want to get into, I guess once I started diving really, really deep into it, I realized I didn't really like it. So I started, researching more about interior design and decorating and what does it really involve. And so I took a year and I think a half off, and I took some art courses. And I mean, I'm not a great artist. I'm not a great, drawer. I can't draw great, but I can visualize and I can see. So I ended up getting into a college program and, kind of went from there. So it was kind of, I guess, suppressed for several years and not really realizing that this was a real viable career.
Wow. Okay. So, how did you start practicing to get better at it as you were like, well, I'm not really great at this, but like I know that this is where I want to go?
So I think what I realized quickly, once I was in school, like it was a pretty intense work intensive program. It was a 3-year program. A lot of them now are 4 years where you're getting a degree, whereas I did a 3-year for and just had a diploma because it really wasn't offered much when I went to school. So I think I just basically, realized that, okay, so my skills in drawing per se, like sketching, weren't great, but there was so many other ways of figuring out how to communicate what it is that I'm wanting to design and present to clients. So I think it was just sort of finding, okay, I'm not great at that, and either I will outsource it, right? I'll find somebody, and actually, in my my 3rd year of school is when I met my husband the year before, and he was in advertising and design, and his I would say he was a really good drawer. His sketching and 3D skills, like for sketching perspective, were amazing. So he basically did my all my artwork for me for my thesis project. And I said, hey, like in the real world, you would be hiring somebody to do this. So I'm now getting somebody else to do this. I did a big chunk of it, but he just sort of finessed it and made it look much better for my thesis project. But I'm like, that's reality, right? That's a skill set I don't have. Let's just figure out a way of getting it. I always say interior design, and what we do is we need to communicate our ideas the most effectively to clients, to the trades, to whoever is actually trying to execute what it is that our concept is or our design is. So it's just, I guess, becoming creative in ways of saying, okay, I can't sketch it, but there's much, especially nowadays, there's so many 3D programs out there that you don't even need to know how to draw anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. So you had kind of mentioned how you have different skill sets than your husband does, and different skill set um, than other people around you, maybe even. But what kind of you obviously have this raw talent of being able to see a space and create something really cool. What kind of person really excels at being an interior designer?
Well, it's funny. I think so many people have a bit of a misconception that it's just this great, oh, it must be so much fun doing what you do and you just get to be creative all the time. And in reality, if you are somebody that is going to be um working for by yourself, or as a junior, you're probably going to work for somebody else, so you're going to learn a lot of it, but it's 20% creativity and 80% project management and administration. So I always say, if you can't, like, if you've got all the greatest ideas in the world, but if you can't stick to a budget, like to making sure that your ideas and your concepts fit within a budget, fit
Hmm.
within a proper timeline, um, if you can't execute these in a responsible method, in the sense that you're like, it's no good, right? Like anybody can design stuff. I don't mean anybody, but designing with no budget and the sky's the limit, that's easy, right? The challenge is, okay, we need to make it look like this. How can we do, where do we put the money towards? Where do we not? Where do we like, so it's a ton of administration, project management, in the sense of just, there's so like, you have to be super, super organized. And I think a lot of people don't sort of see that. They think, oh, it's just a fun, you get to pick things and spend other people's money, when it's really not the truth.
Yeah, so that kind of transitions us into that area of how do you do it. So, how did you do sales when you first started, and how did that kind of change over time?
Sales or not, I mean, most of us go into the business not because we want to sell, right? I mean, in any type of creative field, right?
Right.
Most of us go into the business because we like what we're doing. But unfortunately, without the sales part, you're not going to have a business. So I think really it's, if you don't have the natural ability to sell, you need to learn, right? And it's, so whether it's taking workshops, whether it's reading books, I think a lot of it is just having confidence in your ideas. And again, that comes with time and experience, right? It's not, when I first started out on my own, and getting my first client when I was out on my own, because I worked for a couple different design firms before I went out on my own, and it's scary, right? Like, it's this, um you're feeling like you've got a lot of responsibility, which you do, and you just need to. And I think the other thing is, just, if you don't know, don't pretend that you know. Like, you're better to be, I think, honest and say, I'm going to need to look into that, or I'm going to need to research that. And as designers, I always say we know a little bit about a whole bunch of things. We need to go to the specialists. We need to go to a flooring specialist who knows everything and that there is to know about, let's say, hardwood. You go to a tile specialist because you need to, you have a certain application or something that's a bit unique. You need to go to them that specializes. So as long as you know where your limitations are and where to bring in somebody that's more knowledgeable, because you can't know everything in our field. You cannot know everything. There's just so many. I mean, there's electrical, there's lighting, there's the different types of surfaces there. Like, there's just so much to know, but it's just being authentic and saying, like, listen, I don't have the answer to that. And and that, I think, is being true. And I think initially when I started, I felt like I should have known everything, but it's just not possible.
So on that same vein there, what is something that you learned that you really wish that you would have learned when you were younger, or something that you would tell your younger self now?
I think probably the biggest thing would be just not the boundaries, but more the I think when you're, as designers, we tend to be, again, using sort of a sweeping statement, but we tend to be people pleasers, right? We're doing jobs because we want to make somebody happy, right? We want to design this great space for them. So we want to make them happy, and have a tendency to be a bit of a people pleaser. So I think the biggest thing is trying to sometimes not be completely honest with your clients, in the sense of, they want to, let's just use a bathroom or something. Okay, we want to renovate our master bathroom, and we have about 15,000-20,000 to spend. If you're new in the industry and you're you know or if you don't have the confidence to say that's not possible, like, to be honest with your clients upfront and direct, and be transparent. But it's not even transparent, it's just being like, listen, that's not doable. You're wasting everybody's time. So either you say, like, listen, for that 20,000, we can do this, and this, but if you want to do everything that you're asking for, it's going to be more like 50,000. So I think that was conversations about money were hard, I think, when I was younger. And now I've just realized that, there's no sugarcoating it, because it's going to come out at some point. So you might as well be upfront from the beginning. And if it's not doable, then nobody's upset, and you've managed expectations.
Mm-hmm. So how impactful was networking for you when you first got started, or is it impactful now?
Oh, it's always going to be. And it's funny, when I first started, I think for me, the networking was more with other designers, and just learning. There's stuff you learn at school, but once you're out on your own running your own business, it's learning about different resources and suppliers, and oh, don't deal with them because I've had a lot of problems with them. Or, geez, I need this, I don't know, soapstone. Does anybody know a good, like, soapstone's not super common. Be like, does anybody know a good fabricator? Or, like, just that sharing of information. There was that sort of form of networking that was initially part of like starting a business, was networking and just learning about trades and suppliers, and that, and that's continuing. Like, I'm always, now, with the internet, because I've been in this business 20 years. There's just so much more, not there's so much more information out there. There's so many more, like, there's groups and forums, and people are so open, which is amazing. It's wonderful. And I think it's so great that everyone's become more collaborative as opposed to competitive, because there was still, everybody held their cards quite close to their chest and didn't want to share a ton of information. But I was lucky to find a few designers that we helped each other out, because that's what we did. It was like, oh, that's a great, okay, well, here's a great, contact. Give Brian a call, or give Jim a call. He's really good for whatever. And then networking, as far as clients go, I think you just have to start getting the word out about what it is that you do. And I think a lot of people can have a tendency to be a little bit, I don't want to say shy about it, but not necessarily, I don't know what the word is. Like, it's like, have your elevator pitch, so to speak, but be confident, this is what I do and this is who I do it for. Right? I mean, there's so many different niches or niches in interior design that, it's not just residential, right? There's all different types of commercial. There's restaurants, there's hospitality, there's, you can take interior design and then get into the sales avenue where you're representing companies like flooring companies or fabric companies or that kind of thing. So I always say you just never know where your next job's going to come from. You just never know.
Yeah. So in moving forward with your business and everything, what sort of partners were really best to work with for you to make sure that a project goes well?
What do you mean by partners, like clients?
Like people that you collaborate with, like like what would be your set of people that you work with to get a project done?
I think what I found is I like to work with people that want to do a good job. And I know that sounds pretty obvious, but I've seen a lot of situations where designers have gone in and have spoken to the trades, electricians, the plumbers, the tile people, just horribly, right? And have just sort of treated them like the labor and the servants, so to speak. I mean, that's a bit of an extreme, but I think you're all trying to get to the finish line together, right? And it's just you are one piece of this big puzzle that nothing gets built by one person. You don't design by yourself in entirety. You have so many different trades that are going to be in there. There are times, like many times, where I've been like, oh shoot, I forgot to put that we needed wiring for here or something, right? If you have a good relationship with your trades or the site supers on site, they're going to help you. So I want people that understand that I'm not coming in there to cause problems. I mean, my tagline is design should solve problems and not cause them. And that's exactly it. We're all trying to get this project finished. We're all trying to do a good job. And so we have to collaborate. We have to work together. It's a team, right? It takes a village, so to speak, but it does. It takes a lot of people to get the project executed and finished to what the original vision was.
Yeah. So how do you budget for projects, and how do you know what to charge based on like organizing all of the supplies and all of that for what you think it's going to be in the end for them to get their project done?
Well, as I said, I work predominantly with builders. So I have to go in with a flat fee, meaning a lot of designers, residential, will charge hourly, and that's a never-ending discussion that we have as designers and decorators. Is the fee system, because there's just so many different ways people charge. Like there's per square foot, there's hourly, there's percentages, there's this, there's that. So there's different things. So typically, what I will do is, because when you go into design a project, you're going in and saying, okay, here's what my design fees are going to be to design this project. I don't know exactly what's going to go into this project yet because we haven't designed it. So we always like to say, like, the furnishings budget is going to need to be developed once the design is developed, because it's really like you would completely shoot yourself in the foot, with the exception of model homes. Now, I've done so many of them over the years that I can say, okay, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, there's not a lot of variables. Like, we know what you're going to need in each of these rooms. And so I can give an actual furnishings price for. But like, if I'm doing a sales center, or if I'm doing a decor center, a design studio, like, we have no idea, right? Like, there's all this custom millwork that has to be drawn. We have to get it priced. So it's really about, here you're hiring me as a designer, so this is my design fee to do this, and then we will develop the furnishings budget.
Is there any crossover of interior design with home staging opportunities? I know you kind of said like a little bit about the knickknacks thing or whatever. Is that really common or not really?
I've done one house where I staged it, and it was because it was for a builder that was building like a one-off custom home, and they just like kind of like bought a bungalow or something, and then tore off the roof and rebuilt it, and they said, would you do it? And I said, yeah, because I had a relationship with them. But it's it's a different beast. Staging, you tend to rent the furniture, and maybe you, from the knickknacks, like all the accessories, this stager may have an inventory, and then she'll just reuse them at different houses. But you're going to typically rent the sofas. You're going to rent all the furniture. Whereas when we do model homes, we purchase everything, and the builder purchases that in its entirety, and they own it all, and we're done, right? Like, it's not staging. It's like you rental, and so you've got to get the stuff there, and then you got to, okay, it's rented for a month or two, or however long it takes them to sell the house. I mean, I know that there are some decorators that sort of do a bit of a crossover, but it's it does operate quite differently.
Okay. And then how do you present all of that to customers? Because it sounds like so much collaboration, and how do you kind of make it all into one cohesive package to be able to?
So there used to be in the olden days, there used to be what they'd call like sample boards or mood boards, right? And you put your pictures, and this is where your sketching skills would come in handy. And whereas nowadays we're doing basically, I do like almost like a PowerPoint or Google Slides. And typically what I'll do at the beginning of a project is, once I kind of understand the scope of work and what the project's about and who they're targeting, and like for my builder clients, what I put together what I call a look and feel. And so because they may say to me, well, we want kind of we want a homey, warm place. Well, what does that mean, right? So I kind of figure, okay, where's the location, what is your demographic, who are typically your buyers, right? It could be first time buyers, it could be empty nesters, it could be sort of middle where they're move up buyers, that kind of thing. So then I'll put together what I call a look and feel. So we'll grab images of kitchens that we think are kind of the style we're looking at, and we'll just put together those, which is like a mood board in essence. And we kind of make sure we present that to the client. So we make sure that we're speaking the same language, and picture speaks 1,000 words. So we show them, this is what we're thinking. Is this what you guys, does this feel right to you? Is this sort of what you guys are, you know, the intangible, does this feel like we're hitting the mark? And they'll, 90% of the time it's, yeah, that's the direction we want to go, or we want to tweak it a little less, whatever, a little less country, a little bit, more. We always like, is it Pottery Barn? Is it Restoration Hardware? Like, you have these terminologies, and it's not that we're buying the stuff from there. It's just, there's a look to it. Right. And so we do that through, yeah, as I said, just images like Pinterest, grab a couple light fixtures. It'll speak what the whole design direction is going to look like. And then we know, okay, this is our look and feel. And then we go off and start picking finishes, and then we present those to the client. So it's usually about, depending again on the client. Some of my clients have been amazing to be like, yep, no, we're good, I don't need to see all the furniture, that's fine. And then others want to see every single thing. So it just depends. But it's like I say, it's kind of like a layering. You start off pretty wide, and then you get down to the nitty gritty of the details.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned that a little bit when you're trying to figure out your target demographic, but how did you find out your target demographic when you first started?
I think I kind of fell into it, to be honest. When I went out on my own, I'd worked for one of our big department stores here, designing store interiors before, and I also did exhibit design for like trade shows. And I said, I really want to do more of the residential, because I felt like the commercial side that I was doing with the retail was all very kind of hard, and there wasn't a lot of like pretty stuff. Like, there wasn't a lot of interesting visuals, and it was all about just making sure that the product can be displayed. So I basically, I guess, just started out on my own, and then I joined what was the Home Builders Association, and I got called from quite a large builder and said, we've got a couple model homes. Would you like to bid on them? And so I went in going, like, it was the fake it till you make it thing. I really didn't know like what I was doing. I mean, it was like, okay, we got to furnish a house. Like, I get that, but there were some nuances of the business and the industry. And then thankfully, one of the sales managers there, her and I are still good friends to this day. She kind of helped guide me a little bit on what I needed to do, and then it just sort of rolled from there.
Wow. So what resources or tools would you think be beneficial to somebody else who wants to get started in consulting like this?
Well, I think you need to really understand um, what the industry really is about. Like, when I was saying like the misconception of, it's just picking pretty things, and it's not. And especially if you're running your own business, it's really not. That's such a small portion of what you do on the day to day. As Rebecca, running your own business is, you're wearing 25 different hats, and there's just always so much stuff to be done. And I think you just need to really understand what the business is about. And if I would recommend going to school. I think it's going to give you it's also going to make sure that you like what you're doing, because from our first year to our third year, I think we were a third of the people left actually graduated.
Hmm.
from the first year, like how many people dropped out. So I
Hmm.
think that it's a good sign to see if you really, really enjoy it.
Mm.
Um, and then I think for, just you need to network in the sense of not like networking in the business sense of it. It's just, but just, talk to people and, interview, see if you can, if you're thinking of getting into the industry, interview other designers and find out what it's, what it's really like and what area that you think you might be interested in. Some people love design, but only want to do commercial, um, do offices and that type of thing. So, residential is a completely different beast from commercial. So, there's lots of different avenues in it. And as I mentioned before, maybe you want to be like an architectural rep that just like knows everything there is to know about, a certain like quartz countertops, right? Maybe you want to get into that, or like there's lots of different avenues. So I think it's doing some research and seeing what, sort of lights a fire in you and what seems interesting. And if there's any opportunity to do some job shadowing, or obviously not right now in COVID, but some sort of that type of interning, just to really understand and make sure that what is happening, like what really happens is what you want to do, and just be open to it, right? Because there's a lot to learn, and ask questions.
Yeah. And I'm going to just say too, for some of you guys who are listening, we have not put in this plug yet, but if you're listening or wanting to listen to some interviews with designers, you should definitely check out Crystal's podcast, The Productive Designer, because she does just that. She interviews a lot of different people, and that could definitely be valuable to you.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I mean, it's great. I get to talk to a lot of interesting people, and everybody's got a different story, how they ended up where they're at, and it I do believe that sometimes your career path is not a straight one for sure. So, and if you're young and in your 20s, I'm like, I always say this. I feel for this generation, because there's just so many things that you can do, so many options.
Yeah. So tell our listeners a little bit about how people can find you.
So I have, as you mentioned, thank you, the Productive Designer, and that's productivedesigner.com, is the website. And then it's on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Google. I think I'm on Google. I can't remember, in Amazon. Anyways, just you can just go to the website on that. And then my Instagram is at builderdesigner.ca. Collinson Interiors is our website. And yeah, I would love to, if anybody's got any questions, probably the best one to reach out to me would be on the Productive Designer, just for that, aspect of understanding the business. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just sort of give tools and tips and understand the reality of what it is to run a business as a small business owner or solopreneur, that type of thing, and just understand the true workings of what it's like to be a independent design professional.
Yeah. Well, I know that I have learned a lot from you in just the 20 minutes or so that we've been talking. So I know that our listeners will also get a lot from you. And yeah, so we are going to transition into the Sister Gawk portion of our
Okay.
episode. And I'm going to share a story, unless Crystal, you wanted to jump in and say something.
I think you can go ahead. You can share a fun story.
Okay. I was just thinking this last week about how, so, yeah, Becca and I, there's 7 kids in our family, like some of you know, and we used to play this game called Night Ninjas. And basically what that was is we lived out in the country, and so like when it was actually dark outside, then it was pitch black outside, like it
Oh
was,
yeah.
there's no street lights or
Yeah.
anything. And so we would go outside and dress in all black, and then we would take these Nerf swords and
Mhm.
then just run around and swing them blindly at each other and just beat
there
the
was,
crap out of each
okay,
other.
no. There was a little bit more
Yeah.
logic than that.
Okay.
We had
Mine
glow
wasn't.
sticks. There was glow sticks. So you had to go
it,
hide in the field.
it evolved over time.
And then, like, what would happen is you could hide your glow stick while you were hiding, but you had to get back
Couldn't.
to the base. And if you anytime you moved, like if you were gonna run, you had to show your glow stick. And then that's when the person who was like counting and gonna go chase everybody had to like try to grab you as you were running back.
See,
Is it like a
that's
capture the flag kind of thing?
not kind of like Ghost in the Graveyard, like where everybody like,
Oh.
but this is so Becca's talking about the more evolved version of it, where she came in and decided we had to have rules for things because
Ah,
people were just getting.
I hear. Okay, I'm with Beck on that one. That would just be too. That's mayhem, right? No,
And
no
that's
order.
because you're an administrator, right?
Well, I love a good rule every now and then too, but it was just the original intention was to just run around and beat each other up. And then my mom also stepped in and was like, you guys need to have some protection. So she made us all wear life jackets, triple pants. So then it became like, okay, well, let's actually, then Becca would hide her glow stick. You technically had to keep it out all the time so people could see you, but Becca would
Okay,
hide.
maybe it was cheating. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
That's funny.
Well,
Yeah.
anyways, thank you so much for joining us today, Crystal. We really enjoyed the time with you.
Yeah.
Thank
It's been
you. It
good.
was great talking with you guys. I really enjoyed being here.
Yeah, and if you guys enjoyed this podcast, you can definitely check us out on Apple and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next week.